So imagine believing you live in the safest, the most technologically advanced fortress in the entire world.
Right, look at an absolute utopia.
Exactly. You've got this perimeter shield that nothing can pierce, weapons that literally defy physics, and a society that has, thrived in total isolation.
Unbothered by the rest of the planet.
Yeah, totally. But now, imagine the sheer terror of realizing that those impenetrable walls weren't actually built to keep human enemies out.
Oh, wow.
They were actually built to trap monsters from the sky.
That is such a chilling setup.
It really is. And today, we are diving into a massive, epic narrative from a comic dub story called Predator vs. Black Panther.
Which is just a wild concept.
So wild. We're looking at the horrifying moment when Earth's ultimate hidden superpower collides with, well, the universe's ultimate apex predators.
It is the absolute definition of a cosmic collision. And our mission for this deep dive is to trace this source material from its very beginning all the way to its explosive end.
And we are covering the whole thing.
Right. But if you, as a listener, are picturing just a standard sci-fi monster brawl, you really need to look closer at the text.
Because it's so much more than that.
It really is. Beneath the plasma cannons and vibranium claws, this is a deeply sociological story. We're going to unpack two intensely isolationist empires, the crippling burden of leadership, and how the fatal flaw of technological arrogance really shapes the battlefield.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my geeky enthusiasm for the premise is huge. It's Predator and Black Panther.
Two iconic franchises.
Yeah, but the actual execution in these sources is surprisingly tragic. To really understand the stakes, we actually have to start light years away from Earth.
Right, out in deep space.
Exactly. The narrative kicks off in the Wolf Star system with some deeply, deeply toxic family drama. We meet two rival Yautja, and just for context, that's the actual species name for the predator.
Right, the Yautja.
Yeah. So these two rival clans are led by two brothers who are fighting for the rights to an exclusive, basically pristine hunting ground planet.
And the power dynamic in this family is just skewed from birth. The king of the Yautja, their father, have literally never treated his sons as equals.
Not even close.
No. The older brother is massive, capable, possessing the strength of an entire hunting party all on his own. He is the ultimate golden child.
And the younger brother.
Well, the younger brother was born unusually small and is actually missing a leg. He is the one who demanded this hunt to prove his worth, but his father's blatant favoritism is quite literally weaponized against him.
Yeah, because the king gifts the older brother a very specific ceremonial spear made of what they call Godmetal.
Which is such a great name for it.
It is. And the sources explain that years ago, the father actually staged a month-long hunt on Earth and brought back this metal. It's Vibranium.
And knowing how vibranium works fundamentally alters this fight.
Totally. It absorbs and expels kinetic energy.
Which means every punishing blow the younger brother manages to land on his older sibling is just absorbed by that spear.
Right.
And then it's redirected back at him as concussive force.
Yeah.
It is, by definition, an impossible fight.
It's completely rigged.
Exactly. For a whole month, the brothers and their clans wage war on this planet. But the older brother's victory isn't truly earned at all. It is guaranteed by the physics of that vibranium weapon.
It's like being forced to duel your perfect sibling for the crown. Yeah. But your dad secretly gave them a magical, indestructible cheat code.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
So the younger brother inevitably loses. But here is where the toxic family dynamic crosses a major line. If honor is the cornerstone of Yautja culture, you would think the older brother would just deliver a fatal blow.
Right. You would assume so.
But he doesn't kill him in combat. He strips him of his weapons, ties him to a totem pole, and just leaves him there in the dirt in absolute disgust.
It's brutal.
It really is. But I have to ask, why wouldn't the younger brother just accept defeat if the honor code is so strict to begin with?
Well, the younger brother actually wanted to die, but it had to be a death in combat.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that is the only way to preserve his name and his clan's dignity in their society. Being tied up and abandoned discarded prey was the ultimate disgrace.
A fate worse than death for them.
Exactly. A true Yautja cannot allow his story to end in a state of helplessness. What's fascinating here is how his humiliation births a new kind of predator. Shame is often the greatest driver of dangerous innovation.
Because he realizes that brute physical strength is just a game he will never win.
Yeah.
He lacks the size, he lacks a leg, so he decides to completely change the rules of the game.
Right, and that lack of physical strength forces a radical pivot. He basically turns his own body into a technological weapon.
Like a cyborg predator.
Pretty much. To level the playing field, he integrates cybernetics directly into his biology, installing subcutaneous wrist blades, for example.
That sounds incredibly painful.
Oh, definitely. But he transforms himself into an entirely new breed of predator. He is no longer just driven by the thrill of the hunt. He is consumed by this obsessive need to acquire this Godmetal.
The Vibranium.
Yes. He calculates that if he can build a vibranium arsenal of his own, he can usurp his father's throne and violently rewrite his legacy.
So he initiates a backup plan. He had a ship hidden under a lake on this hunting planet the entire time.
Always good to have an exit strategy.
Right. So he boards it, locks onto the mother lode of this Godmetal, and sets a course straight for Earth. And it's fascinating how this toxic, unequal family dynamic on a distant planet perfectly mirrors the ideological family rift brewing simultaneously on Earth.
Oh, absolutely.
Because while the Yautja brothers are tearing each other apart over a weapon, King T'Challa and his sister Shuri are tearing each other apart over how to use one.
The transition to Wakanda here is crucial. We find T'Challa, the Black Panther, and Okoye, the general of the Dora Milaje, running a training maneuver in the dense jungle.
And the stakes of this training are grounded and, honestly, pretty funny. The losers get a month of grueling perimeter duty.
No one wants that.
Nobody wants that. Whoever tags the Black Panther first wins. But Shuri decides to intervene from her lab. She just hacks T'Challa's vibranium suit mid-maneuver.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Right. Let's think about the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
It's like someone remotely turning off the power steering in your car while you're going 80 miles an hour down the highway. Suddenly, the very thing protecting you becomes dead weight.
And she does this just to humble him, to make him feel vulnerable.
Yeah, but it quickly escalates into this massive ideological debate.
It really does. A river tribe elder named Magikina, who is described in the text as a seer who brings the news of the water, joins Shuri in confronting the king.
The news of the water, that's such a poetic title.
It is. And Magikina delivers a very stark warning. You know, all water connects to other water, just as humanity is one interconnected tribe.
And right now, the global tribe is suffering.
Deeply. Magikina outlines a world ravaged by massive drought-induced fires, extreme poverty, famine, and a new virus that is just destroying lungs across the globe.
So Shuri passionately argues that Wakanda has a moral imperative to step up. She envisions building this global infrastructure, hospitals, universities, a vibranium power grid, even a kinetic railway to connect continents.
She's thinking huge.
Exactly. She wants to take the very resource the predators are flying toward and use it to literally save the world. But T'Challa flat out refuses.
He shuts it down.
Yeah, he argues that sharing their resources is suicide. It makes them visible. It makes them a target.
He really views his primary role as a protector of his people, not a savior of the globe. He offers to help anonymously, operating purely from the shadows.
Which Shuri hates.
Right, because to T'Challa, opening the dam to irrigate the world means contaminating their own good springs. He sees the outside world as a chaotic vector for destruction, and Wakanda as the last pristine sanctuary.
And if you open a sanctuary to a burning world, the sanctuary simply catches fire.
That's his exact logic.
But I really have to push back on T'Challa's stance here. I want you, listening to this, to imagine sitting on the literal cure to the world's worst problems. Famine, disease, energy crises.
You can fix it all.
Yeah, you have the answer in your basement.
Yeah.
But you are so terrified of thieves that you just lock the door and listen to people suffer outside. So what does this all mean? Is T'Challa being a wise protector? Or is this just an extreme, borderline, cruel level of paranoia?
It is a harsh reality, but T'Challa is carrying a historical burden that Shuri's idealism simply ignores.
How so?
Well, Shuri dreams of kinetic railways, but T'Challa is tasked with the survival of an entire civilization. The narrative presents a chilling, dramatic irony in this exact moment, you know. Shuri argues that if they open their doors, they will invite allies.
And T'Challa argues that if they open their doors, they will invite predators.
Exactly.
And before the argument even settles, a literal predator is in orbit. The younger brother's ship is scanning the globe for the kinetic signature of vibranium, zeroing in on the absolute epicenter in Africa.
The collision is instantaneous. The Yautja arrive, and they don't just land, they completely bypass Wakanda's perimeter shield.
Which is wild because the Wakandan shield is arguably the greatest defense system on Earth.
Yeah.
So how does an alien ship just pass right through it?
Well, the sources say the Yautja algorithms slice through it like a blade through flesh.
Ouch.
But practically, they are exploiting a backdoor in the code. They basically map the frequency of the energy shield and invert it, slipping through the barrier without ever triggering an alarm.
So sneaky.
Yeah.
And T'Challa is still out in the jungle when he notices the environment subtly shifting. Dead birds start dropping from the canopy.
Such an eerie image.
Right. Then he sees the cloaked ship, a ripple in the air he describes as a window in the sky.
And before he can even issue a warning, the king is struck. He takes a barrage of plasma blasts directly to the head.
It's so fast. The vibranium weave of his suit absorbs the lethal energy, saving his life, but the sheer concussive force is overwhelming. He falls, concussed and completely unconscious, into the cold, dark mud of the swamp.
A total ambush.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Shuri sees the anomaly on her monitors and frantically tries to access the perimeter controls, but she finds herself completely locked out by an alien override.
This really highlights the fatal flaw of technological arrogance we talked about. Wakanda assumed its digital infrastructure was untouchable.
They thought they were unhackable.
Exactly. But the Yautja don't just breach the shield, they hijack the mainframe. They lock the barrier down permanently. Wakanda is instantly transformed from a hidden sanctuary into a giant, inescapable hunting preserve.
It's terrifying. And the sensory details of the jungle skirmish that breaks out are fascinating. Take Okoye, the general. She can't physically see these cloaked aliens, but she tracks them through a complete lack of sensory input.
Which is brilliant.
She knows in jungles baselines so intimately, like the rusty chirp of a specific frog, the smell of methane bubbling in the swamp, that when a 20-foot radius of the canopy goes completely unnaturally silent, she knows exactly where the invisible threat is standing.
Her profound connection to the natural environment becomes our only working radar. But we must also consider how the predators methodically weaponize Wakanda's own philosophy against them.
What do you mean?
Well, Wakanda has relied on cloaking technology for generations to keep the outside world out. The Yautja use their superior cloaking technology to lock Wakanda in.
Oh, wow.
It forces a terrifying realization. The Wakandans spent decades running war games against the United States, Russia, and China. They never considered a threat dropping from the stars.
And this brings us to a massive revelation. Because while T'Challa is lying unconscious in the mud, he has a near-death experience. His mind travels to the ancestral plane.
Right, the spiritual realm where every Black Panther communes with the monarchs who came before them.
He speaks to his grandfather, Azuri the Wise, and Azuri drops a historical bombshell that recontextualizes the entire history of Wakanda.
It changes everything.
Azuri reveals that back in his era, around World War II, the greatest threat they faced was not, as he puts it, Nazi Germany. The predators had actually attacked Wakanda once before.
The first invasion was a near-apocalyptic slaughter. Azuri confesses that nearly 500 Wakandans were butchered by the Yautja before the nation finally managed to overwhelm them and burn the alien bodies.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because Azuri tells T'Challa that they studied the remains of the predators' weapons. Wakanda's defining technological marvel, their famous, impenetrable cloaking perimeter shield, was actually inspired by and reverse-engineered from Yautja cloaking tech.
It's a staggering detail.
My mind was completely blown reading this. I mean, it fundamentally shifts how we view T'Challa's fierce isolationism.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it recasts entire political philosophy. Azuri notes that history remembers him as guarded, hostile, and paranoid. But it wasn't paranoia at all.
No, not even a little.
Wakanda's strict isolationism wasn't born out of some arrogant desire to hoard wealth from a suffering globe. It was a severe trauma response to an alien massacre.
That makes so much sense.
When T'Challa earlier warned Shuri about inviting predators, he wasn't using a political metaphor for greedy human nations. He was citing a literal, generational memory of monsters falling from the sky to harvest their people.
Armed with this horrifying historical context, T'Challa wakes up. He immediately rallies Okoye and a warrior named Akili, and they bypass the jungle entirely. They head straight for the Great Mound, the massive subterranean vibranium mine.
Because they know that is the ultimate prize the Yautja have come to claim.
Exactly.
And the environment shifts dramatically here. We move from a sprawling, open jungle hunt to a claustrophobic, terrifying cat-and-mouse game underground.
It gets so intense.
T'Challa understands that engaging a cloaked enemy with plasma cannons in an open space is suicide, so he forces the engagement into the dark, narrow, winding ventilation shafts of the mine.
It literally becomes a pure horror sequence. The predators anticipate the subterranean tactic. One of the Wakandan war dogs triggers a laser mine planted on the tunnel wall and is just vaporized.
Terrible.
And then Akili drops down a vertical shaft, believing he has the drop on an alien, but he is instantly slaughtered in the dark. And the psychological warfare the Yautja employed here is deeply, deeply chilling.
It's so sadistic.
They don't just kill Akili, they record his final desperate words. He says, "I will kill every last one of them, I swear." And they broadcast this hollow, disembodied voice recording of a dead man through the pitch-black tunnels, just to mock and lure Okoye and T'Challa.
The Yautja are demonstrating a mastery of terror that goes way beyond physical combat. They are purposefully trying to provoke a reckless, emotional mistake from the Wakandan leadership.
But T'Challa refuses to break. He uses the vertical geography to his advantage. When a predator drops down a shaft playing that recording, T'Challa intercepts him in freefall.
Such a cinematic moment.
Yeah, they collide midair with immense force, and T'Challa twists their momentum so the predator takes the devastating impact against the stone floor. And this just spills the fight into the main cavern of the mine. The sources paint a brutal picture. The air is thick with the smell of blood, echoing with screeching metal. The Wakandans are heavily outnumbered by these massive cybernetic hunters.
And it is in this chaotic cavern that T'Challa makes a profound, tactical, and deeply symbolic choice. Facing off against the younger Predator brother, who is the mastermind of this invasion, T'Challa deliberately removes his Vibranium helmet.
Right in the middle of a war zone.
Yes, he demands a face-to-face, skin-to-skin fight.
Which is wild, because Okoye practically begs him to keep his armor on. He is already concussed, he's bleeding. Why would he willingly discard his greatest advantage against a physically superior alien?
Because for both of these leaders, survival is secondary to pride and ideology.
Oh, that makes sense.
The younger Yautja is fighting with a naked, desperate hunger to erase a lifetime of physical and emotional humiliation handed down by his father. He relies entirely on his stolen technology to compensate for his perceived weakness.
Right, his whole identity is tied to that tech now.
Exactly. T'Challa, conversely, recognizes that he must prove Wakanda's strength is inherent in the flesh and blood of its people, not just a byproduct of the alien metal they mine. By rejecting the Vibranium crutch, the very Godmetal that corrupted the Predator's family, T'Challa is making a definitive statement about true power.
But the skin-to-skin fight in the mines is only half the crisis. We have to look at what is happening outside the perimeter shield, where Shuri is still locked out, helpless, as her country burns.
With Wakanda's internal comms completely jammed by the Yautja override, Shuri makes a desperate pivot. She broadcasts a blind, unencrypted plea for help on open channels to the outside world.
The very world she was begging T'Challa to aid just hours ago.
Exactly.
And this is where the wider Marvel universe bleeds in, because someone actually picks up that transmission. Falcon. Sam Wilson.
Such a great crossover moment.
It is. Captain America had sent him on a recon mission over Africa, and he catches the SOS. The dynamic that instantly forms between Shuri and Falcon is a fantastic injection of levity. He lands, completely bewildered by the massive cloak dome and alien technology, asking how he can assist.
And what does she say?
Shuri immediately tells him to shut his American mouth so she can focus on hacking the alien interface.
She requires absolute uninterrupted focus to break the Yautja's encryption, but she also needs physical cover. The moment a Predator steps outside the shield to eliminate the hacker, she is completely exposed.
So she tells Falcon to be the big spoon, dragging him into her tactical web. She realizes his flight suit possesses a powerful magnetic drive, and she uses it to jam the Predator's GPS targeting.
That's incredibly resourceful.
And then she instructs him to wrap his hard light wings around her. By forming a physical photon barrier, the wings completely block their thermal signatures, rendering them invisible to the Predator's infrared tracking.
It is a brilliant, improvised synthesis of Earth technologies uniting against an alien threat. Shuri and Falcon manage to crack the override and regain access to the shield just as the brutal melee in the mines reaches its climax.
Talk about perfect timing.
Right. Inside, T'Challa has grievously wounded the younger Predator brother. The absolute disgrace he has run from his entire life finally catches up to him. He refuses to yield, but he also refuses to die and give his father the satisfaction of his ultimate failure.
So he makes a desperate retreat. He orders his remaining soldiers back to their ship. They have managed to secure a massive payload of Vibranium, and they blast off, rocketing straight up through the ceiling of the Great Mound.
A clean getaway, or so they think.
Exactly. Now, Shuri and Falcon are waiting outside the perimeter.
Oh.
They see the alien vessel launch, realize it's a catastrophic vibranium heist, and they engage. Utilizing their combined tech, they manage to critically damage and destroy the ship just as it tries to break the atmosphere.
So reading that sequence, you would naturally assume the threat is neutralized. Massive casualties, yes, but Wakanda won the day.
Right, they destroyed the ship. So they won, didn't they?
And that assumption is precisely where the narrative drops a devastating reality check. Because before that ship was destroyed, in the reckless heat of his escape, the younger Predator sent a transmission deep into space.
He didn't just send a distress call, did he?
No, he didn't. This raises an important question, you know. Who was he calling? He sent a targeted message directly to his father, the Predator King, and his older brother in the Wolf Star system.
Oh, no.
The transmission wasn't a warning, it was undeniable proof. He showed them the massive, unfathomable haul of Godmetal he had discovered. And the text makes it explicitly clear that transmission reached its target.
The king got the message.
The king and the older brother now know exactly where the universe's largest deposit of vibranium is located.
By trying to violently secure his own honor, the younger brother has essentially doomed the entire planet. He has painted a massive glowing target on Wakanda for a full-scale Yautja invasion.
It turns a hard-fought tactical victory into absolute ashes.
What a massive, grueling journey this narrative takes us on. We started with a bitter, unequal family feud on a distant planet, followed a disgraced son across the stars, witnessed an incredibly tense clash of political ideologies in Wakanda, and ended up in a brutal psychological war deep in the vibranium mines.
The narrative architecture here perfectly mirrors the combatants themselves. I mean, they are complex, driven by ancient codes, and ultimately self-destructive.
So consider the core takeaway here. Our deepest held philosophies, the codes we live by, they often blind us to the practical, devastating consequences of our actions.
Very true.
T'Challa's rigid isolationism, which was born from generational trauma, ultimately could not protect his people from the sky. And the Yautja's rigid, unyielding honor code merely drove a desperate son to betray his own survival for the sake of his ego.
It really just proves that you can build the strongest, most technologically advanced walls in the universe, but eventually someone with a bigger stick is going to figure out how to bypass the lock.
It's such a heavy realization.
It is. I would leave you to mull over a final, rather tragic irony. Think back to the ideological debate that sparked this entire sequence of events.
The argument in the jungle.
Right. Shuri desperately wanted to open Wakanda's doors to the outside world in order to save humanity from its suffering. T'Challa violently wanted to keep those doors permanently closed in order to protect Wakanda from the world.
They were at a total stalemate.
But in the end, it wasn't a political decree or a royal mandate that made the decision for them. It was a single alien transmission that effectively opened Wakanda to the entire universe. If the greatest defense system on Earth is so easily breached, hijacked, and turned into a cage by one desperate hunting party, what exactly is going to happen when an entire armada of predators arrives looking for the ultimate prize?